Why the heck not? Colleen, are we ready to go? Are you guys all ready?
Well, you call the meeting, we're ready.
Well, Colleen is, I don't know, how do we hear?
Excellent.
Just mute that.
She did.
Where's mute? It is muted.
I said if it's bothering you, you can turn it off, because I don't really think it helps at all.
It's the volume that I can hear myself talking.
Yeah.
Feel like you're in a
if it's
fun house?
echoing, it's gonna cause a problem.
Sounds like you're in a fun house.
Okay, I think I turned it
A
down.
little bit.
Should be all set now.
Yeah, you get a lot of people online, so this is good.
Okay, welcome to the planning board meeting for October 27th, 2021. This meeting is being televised by Chelmsford Telemedia and is being conducted in person in room 204 of the town offices. We will continue with the Zoom component links for the public until further notice. The call-in number is 929-205-6099. The agenda is the UMass West work session. All right. Evan, do you want to?
Yeah, I think this evening we have Attorney Melissa Robbins for the proponent, and Town Council Paul Haverty is with us this evening as well. Maybe spend a half hour or so?
Yes,
Agenda
yep,
item?
that sounds great. Do you want to, is there any changes, Paul, or anything that you think we need to know before we go around the board to bring up anything that we have, or is there anything?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Paul Haverty, Town Council. There was a revised version of the bylaw that was submitted by Melissa Robbins.
Which you have hard
Yep.
copies of?
Yeah.
I don't know if the version you have has the changes tracked.
Yes.
Okay, so I mean, those are the changes that have been made since the last time we were there. I reviewed them. I didn't have any concerns with them, so I think we can just have Attorney Robbins run the board through them.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Okay, Attorney Robbins?
Good evening, Mr. Chair. For the record, Attorney Melissa Robbins from Farrell and Robbins. Also on with me tonight is James Ward from Nutter, McClellan and Fish. He's been working on this document as well with Evan Belansky and Paul Haverty that I know are both there. And also on with me is Mason Brunnock from Trammell Company. So what I'll do is I'll run through the changes quickly, and then if there's anybody at the board that has any questions, I can't see you actively right now, so if you have any questions, Mr. Chair, just pause me and we can stop and run through them, okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so the first change, the first bubble that you see is just waiting for an insert on the purpose and intent, and Evan and I will clean that up this week and make sure that that's cleaned up. That's really the only change on page 1. If you go to page 2, section 5, 1 and 2 are just meant to address the frontage issue that was raised by the board at the last meeting. So those 2 sections address the frontage issue, so we have no issue as to a conflict with your frontage definition. And that is all on page 2. On page 3, I'll just tell you quickly, in the bubble, it was raised at the last meeting of whether or not there should be a minimum and a maximum, but there would not be a minimum because the development agreement, as you know, is less than 15 units per acre. So we don't want to put a minimum in there and then run afoul of it. So that it'll stay as it's worded as a maximum density. These are some other suggested changes on page 3 that the planning board members had. Number 1 was just to clarify that these setbacks are not to streets that are being created or any ways that are being created within the development. These are setbacks to existing roads. We had discussed number 9 at the last meeting, which was just that we have no proposals for anything on the roof, but there may be rooftop solar, and that would not be included in the building height. We had some discussion about the open space and what will be in the open space. And I know this will be more discussion at the joint board meeting, the Board of Selectmen's meeting, but we did clarify that any area, there could be areas that are maintained on behalf of the abutters within this area as well, that'll be coined open space, and that could be in that open space area as well. Mr. Chair, the next section is about parking, and I know that we've revised this section, so I just want to speak to it quickly. The board has had some issues with overall number of parking spaces per unit. I think at the last board meeting, we were about 1.3 per unit. We've now gone back through and made some of those adjustments that we had discussed at the last planning board meeting, and now at 1.6 parking spaces per unit. Just to be clear, that 1.6 is just for the market rate units. The SCG and choice unit development still has a calculation of 0.90 per unit, which I think Mr. Hedison spoke to a couple meetings ago. He thought that was high for most of his units, but that's what we're holding right now is 0.90. And again, at the bottom of page 4, I know this was a discussion at the last meeting, but we have adjusted that size to not be 9 by 19, but 8.5 by 19. Going on to page 5, the section was just added that we would make sure that buildings were in compliance with separations for Mass Fire Code. At the bottom of page 5 in the bubble, there was a question raised at the last meeting of whether or not this would have to fulfill all the filing requirements of the site plan review process. And that section J that is highlighted actually brings in all the site plan review application requirements under that section. So it is included as part of this overlay. Page 6 is nothing, and that is it. So those were all the changes that were made from the last meeting. I think we had discussed a little bit more at the last meeting, and the only thing that's really outstanding is to go through the purpose and intent of the overlay itself. So I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have about the revised changes. I know town council's there as well if you have any questions for him.
Okay, why don't we bring it around the board? Deidre, do you have any questions?
One question for clarification, Melissa, the 1.6 is for studios and 1 bedrooms, correct? And it's still two parking spaces for 2 bedrooms and above?
No, it's 1.6 across the board. So that's an average of 1.6 per unit. And then for the affordable component here, which was the SCG and choice portion, that will be 0.90 per unit, so slightly less than 1 per unit.
So in the previous rendition, it was 1 parking space for a studio and 1 bedroom, and 2 for 2 or 3 bedroom. So now going to 1.6 for all the units. What's the change in the overall number of parking spaces?
It's an addition of 18 parking spaces overall.
Okay, so that's
So
from
that's
what to what?
That's from the last version that you folks saw. We've added 18 parking spaces.
So that went from a total of X to a total of what?
Mason, maybe you could give me that number. I know Mason Brennick's on the line, but Mason, can you tell me what we were before and what the total number is now?
Yeah, this is Mason Brennick for the record, from Trammell Crow. We were around 520 before, and now we're at 544 total.
Okay, and so if we were to back it out and say the choice spots at 0.9, how many is that?
We're still at 544 for Trammell Crow, and then choice is an additional 49 on top of that.
Okay, so then if we were to back out 2 for the 2-bedroom units and the 3-bedroom units, that would leave us with how many for the 1-bedroom units now?
We can run that math. We don't have that. We're not looking at it on a bedroom count. We're basically looking at it on a kind of average.
Yeah, but before you were, so I'm just trying to compare apples and apples instead of apples and oranges.
Deidre, is there a certain number that you're looking for per
No, I'm
unit?
just trying to figure out what it was. So like if you said,
Oh, okay.
I mean, I think two cars for a 2 or 3 bedroom unit seems appropriate. And before you had 1 car for a 1 bedroom unit. So now I'm wondering, or a studio, what is that new number for the 1 bedroom in the studio? I'd like to know what that number is.
So the numbers didn't change. This is the additional units only covers the additional visitor parking. So we're still at the same ratio before, but instead of just making a long section, this having a 1.6 ratio just simplifies the parking for everyone.
Okay, well, I guess I'd just like to know how many are for 2 bedrooms? If you were to do 2 for every 2 or 3 bedroom, and then however many for visitors, I think it's 1 per 5 units. And then how many does that leave for the studios and the 1 bedrooms? I'm just trying to understand how the pieces break out.
For the underlying zoning, Deirdre, we would comply with the general standards, but not the visitor parking standards that requires additional parking on top of that. So right now, we've added 18 additional spaces. We can make sure we give you the breakdown so you can have it per unit, but that has not changed. What we've done is add 18 parking spaces, visitor parking spaces, really over and above what the board had seen before, but I can get you that breakdown.
Yeah, it just is confusing to me, because before it was broken out as per type of unit, and now it's not, so I don't know how to make that comparison in my head.
Sure, no, we can do that.
And I think it was reduced from 9 by 16 to 8.5 by 16.
Which is another problem.
Yeah, the spaces.
That's
Eight,
correct.
8.5 by 18.
8.5 by 18. Okay. Anything else, Deidre? Nancy?
Yeah, I have 2 things. The first one is the new definitions you added in terms of multifamily dwelling units and age-restricted multifamily dwelling units. And I'd like to, I guess I'd like your input on what you're trying to represent with these new definitions that is different than the old definition for multifamily dwellings. Because these definitions create conflict throughout the document. The issue I'm seeing is that you define a term multifamily dwelling units essentially as the entire site. And then you say that you can have 2 of these per acre. But the definition of it has an unlimited number of family units in a single or multi-building configuration. So it's just not jiving. I believe that your definitions should be multifamily dwelling and age-restricted multifamily dwelling, not multifamily dwelling units and age-restricted multifamily dwelling units. And the conflict in that is carried throughout the whole document. That sometimes the term is used that appears to mean a single unit and a single living unit, and sometimes where the term is used, it appears to represent the entire building or complex of units. So I think the document needs to be, unit needs to be dropped from the definitions, and the whole document needs to be checked and updated for consistent usage.
Okay.
Okay? Because you can't have 2 of those per acre, or 2 or more of them per acre when the definition is everything that's there. The other concern I have is reducing the size of the parking spaces. And the reason I have a concern about that is that we've been seeing a large percent of our new apartments and condominiums occupied by seniors in the last few years. And as we found with the new layout of the senior center parking lot, even standard-sized parking spaces are creating a conflict for them, because any senior that needs a walker to get around once they get out of that vehicle cannot get that walker between vehicles in a standard-sized parking lot. And you simply don't have enough handicapped spaces available for everybody that needs walking support to use those handicap spaces. So I would be absolutely opposed to dropping the size of your parking spaces.
Nan, are you talking about just the age-restricted?
I'm not.
parking?
No,
Oh.
Melissa, I'm not. And the reason I'm not is because what we're seeing in terms of the people that are filling our new housing is a lot of seniors,
Okay,
okay? And they just can't use those small spaces. It's just not practical, you know? If this was an area where the expectation is you'd have all young professionals occupying your new housing, I wouldn't be concerned about it. But that's not what we're seeing in terms of our influx into the new housing.
okay. Now, would there be an objection to having an area of compact parking?
Not at all.
That's what I was gonna suggest.
Okay. I mean, because I think that we could try to address this in a couple different ways by having compact parking areas and then standard parking areas. So we can look at that combination to try to address that concern.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about it because I'm running into it constantly with my mother.
Yeah.
Understood.
Is there gonna be any parking for electric cars or on-site?
Yes, we'll have some EV chargers.
Okay. Paul?
I don't have anything.
Henry?
The one thing I didn't see that got in here is they agreed originally to do their their streetscaping or to make it look good by the road fairly quickly. And I've read through the landscape and I haven't seen that. I would like to see it in there just because, especially if we're gonna bring this to town meeting and we're gonna try to get it in there, curb appeal is gonna be important.
I believe that was in the development agreement.
Is in the development agreement? All right.
Okay.
Yes, and I can make sure, Henry, that that's included, that the streetscape be addressed at the upfront of the development as part of the development agreement.
All right.
All right.
I'm good.
Thanks, Henry. Mike?
I'm good. My comments have been addressed at the last meeting, and Nancy picked up on them on the parking sizes.
Yeah, similarly, I think the last meeting covered a lot of what I was concerned about.
The same with me. All right, we're all set on that.
So, well, what is our next move to send this forward and suggest that this is the animal?
An agreement,
Those
well, with-
definitions need
with
to
the
be
correction,
cleaned up.
yeah.
We
So,
need that
Yeah.
We gotta come to agreement on that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and the parking.
and
Okay.
so the couple issues that are still the language for the definitions and then the parking.
Sure.
You know what our concerns are and what we'd like to see?
And what I can do, Mr. Chair, is I can make sure that Nan's issue is dealt with the consistency as to units and make sure that it's clear across the document. And just make sure that's clear with your planner and Mr. Haverty and Nan before we circulate it to the Board of Selectmen. And then I can just highlight the area, the parking area, that we're still addressing this issue, but I can still submit it to the Board of Selectmen. That way it's in their packets prior to the next joint boards meeting, because I think our next meeting, your planning board next meeting may be too close for me if I wait.
Melissa, I would be good with, in terms of the parking size, if you went back to standard size parking as a requirement and reduced size parking as a special permit.
The compact spaces by special permit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would work.
It still doesn't address, we would still have the outstanding issue, though, once we calculate all of that, if the board's satisfied with the parking spaces per unit. Right now, we're 1.6, which is basically, we comply with the underlying parking standards except for the additional parking for visitor parking spaces, which right now we have at 18. So I guess that would be the only area of concern I would have, putting the entire parking section before the Board of Selectmen. We just don't have consensus on the final number, that's all.
18 seems low for 394 units.
Yes, it does.
So I just ran the numbers real quick. So for studios, it's one space. For one bedrooms, one space. 2 and 3 bedrooms, it's 2 spaces each. So that gets us to 496 spaces total. So with the additional to 544, that's 48 visitor parking spaces, which comes out to an additional space per every 7 units.
That's not so bad.
No, that's not too bad at all.
That's not so bad.
Yeah.
That sounds better. I have no idea what should be appropriate. I guess you guys know that better than us. And you don't want all your tenants unhappy. I will go back to my point that I've made on several occasions. I know it's in the works to have a public session, but I'll remind the board that we're doing this, I don't think we're televised. I think we're Zoomable right now. We're negotiating or discussing
I think we're televised.
Are we televised?
Yeah, and we have been, I did discuss it with them. And also, just as I know we talked about it, Evan is working on a bigger space for us for the public hearing.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm a rookie at planning board for having been on the board, 6 or 8 months. And I don't exactly understand how the process is for a large scale project, but it seems, we have to have something to bring to town meeting, but to have it all done before we bring it to any public input seems, not, so if the public input is in disagreement with any aspect of this, then it would have to be put together in the format of an amendment on the town meeting floor, or would this still be able to be amended?
I can speak to that quickly, Deirdre. Just in our schedule, and I know we spoke about the schedule generally, but right now we have we have another joint boards meeting, we have another Board of Selectmen's meeting, but what we've also agreed to do is a public forum even before the planning board public hearing to address that very concern. So that we can have a targeted meeting, invite the representatives, invite the public, so that everybody can comment on that before we get to the actual planning board meeting on the zoning.
Okay, and that's gonna be, do we have a date yet?
I think we're looking at to do it after the next joint boards meeting. That way these documents are a little bit more solidified, perhaps after November 17th, which I think is the next joint boards meeting. So perhaps that Thursday. I know that Monday's the 22nd. We're getting into holiday time. So that's the time period that I'm looking at. I just didn't want to schedule it yet until we made sure that the boards were comfortable with the documents, generally speaking.
Agreed. Okay.
Yeah, so that's, I 100% agree with you. This is a large-scale project. We definitely want to hear what the greater public has to say, not just the butters in the closest proximity. So that's what we'll be planning, an actual public forum.
And do we have any kind of a larger location thought of?
Evan and I were discussing it today. He's got a few options.
You can meet, for the public meeting, you can meet anywhere. If you want it televised live, then it needs to be in specific locations that work for telemedia.
So would one of them be the senior center, and would one of them be
We'd
Old
have to
Town Hall?
check. We'd have to check, so their challenge is staffing capacity. This room is easy to go. And then there's, I believe, the police station training room is fairly easy for them. Anywhere else, they have to set all the equipment up. So,
Even at the police station they do, so
okay.
How about the high school, the pack that,
I
that's,
think they still need
the
to set
pack
up.
is an easier place for them to do it.
Okay, so I will follow up with them, and I'll work with the proponent. So just so I understand, was it November 17th, the next joint meeting? Was that a
Yes.
definite? Okay. So November 18th is not a good night for a community meeting. The North Village Committee has a traffic public presentation input session on the square. We had originally targeted December 8th to open the zoning hearing. Maybe we move that to December 22nd. And then that gives a full month between November 17th and December 22nd to do a community presentation on the project.
Evan, maybe you and I can just work offline and just see what other potential conflicts we have with other board meetings.
Fine.
And look at some spaces and see if we can pick a day that we can find a larger meeting space that doesn't conflict with another one.
Yeah, no, it's not just meeting space, it's also the calendar. The last week in
Exactly.
November, the last week in November is Thanksgiving, so that's not going to work.
But December
Exactly.
22nd is Christmas, so.
Yes, it is, so that's not good either. Okay,
Well, can you,
But we can work,
yep.
yeah,
Deirdre, we're definitely committed to doing that, and I know timing, logistics, and location is a problem, but now that we're getting to the end of the drafting process, really, or getting closer to the end, I think that it's important for us to pin down that date, so we'll continue to work with staff on that.
perfect. So you two will work it out with dates, meeting place, and then we can just go
Yep.
from there.
Yep.
Okay. That's it for tonight then with this. And we'll wait to hear back from you, Melissa, with the changes, and we can move forward.
Can I ask, when is the next regular planning board meeting?
It's on the end of the agenda.
11th, isn't it?
Likely going to be November 10th.
10th. okay.
Yeah, 10th.
So should we just hold a place for this discussion on the 10th?
Yeah.
Prior to the joint boards meeting, just so that we can clean this up?
Yeah, I
Any
think-
final cleanups?
I think that would be good.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, we ready to start the regular meeting then. First up is Wisteria Lane, a request to pull an amount of money to finish the project and the balance after complete release to the developer, Walter Erickson. Do we have anything?
I believe, is Christina on the call?
Yeah, we have something, a letter
So
to,
I
Christina is.
I honestly don't, this
Yeah.
appeared on the
Yeah, Evan's
agenda
gonna-
yesterday.
It was added, was it yesterday?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's gonna explain
This
it
has
to
been
you,
going
because
on for a while.
Yeah.
Okay, but don't we have a public,
This has been going on for a while. Listen to what.
Oh,
it's
hear 'em out
gonna-
first, 'cause
Hear 'em
it's-
out, and then you'll,
but I mean, we post an agenda so that people know what to expect from us and what we're gonna be talking about. And there's rules for when the agenda gets items are
agree.
posted.
I agree.
And if we're in violation of those,
So you're not in violation, it's an administrative item, not a public hearing. There's no public input necessary, this is purely administrative, and a request of the town's DPW. So, I mean, Christina may be able to tell you if it's time sensitive or not.
Do you have something?
I do have some input. There is a 48-hour requirement for posting agendas prior to holding a public hearing. There are exceptions to it. If something comes in at the last second, you have to post it as soon as possible before the meeting. But you do want to be careful about having discussions on substantive matters that have not been on the agenda for 48 hours prior. We did have an open meeting law claim filed against the Board of Health about a year ago on something of a similar nature. It came in at the last second. The Board of Health actually acted appropriately. The claim was dismissed by the Attorney General's office. But the board should be careful in making sure that it doesn't have discussions on matters that weren't posted 48 hours in advance unless there is, very solid reason as to why it was unable to be posted within that 48-hour period.
Now, this was 48 hours though, right?
The agenda was posted, this particular item was added.
yesterday.
Yesterday.
This was not posted.
So it's not enough, so,
So my recommendation would be to hold this off to your next meeting.
okay, perfect. We'll hold it off to the next meeting. And if we could take note, Colleen, and make sure that we give 48 hours, let's just make that how we operate going forward. Next up, 191-201 Riverneck Road, draft decision, COID applicability finding.
Mr. Chairman, I presume you don't need me for anything else?
I think we're all
I
set.
don't see,
Thank you very much.
Welcome. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
I don't see anything on here that's gonna need a lawyer.
So you have a draft
No
agenda?
letters
now.
for Riverneck.
yeah.
You have
This-
a draft
yeah.
decision in front of you?
Yep.
Based upon your last meeting?
Yep.
Tied to the other one.
All right, does anybody have anything on it? Deirdre?
No.
Nancy?
Well, actually, I'm sorry. I don't know how, it was written in there that several members have a concern pertaining to traffic, right? Or no, the trucking 24-hour bay. I mean, I guess it's technically correct that my concerns probably stem from the 24-hour trucking possibility, but they actually are noise, lighting, safety, impact on the surrounding neighborhood. So it's a whole litany of things that are caused by the 24-hour traffic. So I don't know if it's appropriate to put all those other things in as words of caution as recommended by town council. Or
We
if it
can do
just
in associated impacts.
Sure.
It says several because it wasn't clear to me that the majority of the board felt the same way.
Well, I mean, we could go around. I think all of us had, well, most of us had concerns about that and for the neighborhood. But this is just applicability.
Right.
And this is probably one of the hardest things to get over, is that. Because
Right.
we, right away, we're going to what it's gonna be when we have no clue.
Absolutely.
It's to applicability, so that's the one thing we have to remember here, that we've been reminded time and again from from our attorneys, so.
But he also suggested that it was appropriate to put in
100%.
words of caution if
Yep.
there were compelling words of caution, and I feel those are compelling.
Agree with you, and
They're in
I
there.
think the majority of us feel that way. If there's anyone that doesn't,
Well, I mean, we gotta put out to a vote and see if everybody agrees.
You wanted to say, take out several and say the board?
I think so. If
would you
people agree.
just read that back to us, Evan, and then we can just
Yeah.
clarify and make sure
So
we're all
it's,
comfortable with it?
It's finding number 8 on page 2. The board members expressed concerns related to the potential for 24-hour trucking operations and associated impacts.
Yeah, that's stapled together wrong.
It's something's not stapled right here.
Not where it ought to be.
Printed single page instead of double.
We don't have the copy?
Well,
Okay. Let me,
we don't have that page.
can send it down.
No, what, don't, we're looking at 8?
You want to read 8?
Well,
Yeah, I
think
read it.
we're
I just
missing
read
the
it.
whole page.
Oh, he's got it here.
Yeah, I was looking at it online.
Yeah, maybe that's the way
Yeah,
to go.
why don't we pull it up?
I don't know if we attached draft decisions to,
It's
You
not on
didn't.
there.
I read it somewhere.
I know it was emailed.
It was
Oh,
emailed.
okay.
You want me to have her bring us up a copy of it, or?
You want to table it to the end?
Yeah,
I'll
let's
make all my
table it.
copies?
Yeah, why don't we
Okay,
table
yeah.
this to the end, have Colleen bring us up copies so we can all go through
I
it?
think you
Bring
just
that
send
back
that,
to
send that
him.
back.
All right, that works. Next up, we're going to table 191-201 River Neck Road till the end of the meeting so that we can put the rest of the decision together. Next up is going to be 56 Pile Drive, endorse the final plans.
We have no letters on Pile Drive.
Signed Mylar.
Sign the Mylar.
Yeah.
Mylar.
Well, that's it.
Is Christine on the call?
Christina?
Hi. Hi, yes, I'm here. This
Okay.
is Christina Papadopoulos.
I like the library behind you.
Okay, thank you. I did submit a letter, and I do recommend endorsement of the Mylars for 56 Pile Drive.
Then where's our letter?
Yeah, we don't have a letter in the file.
Okay, I'll track that down for you.
Okay, excellent.
Okay, you want to put that on hold as well until we get the letter?
Yeah, why don't we do that? We'll put that on hold. Let's just keep moving. Colleen, if you could bring up the letter for that as well. All right, next up, new public hearing, 9 Acton Road. Site plan special permit for the property located AKA 13 AKA 9 Acton Road. Request a special permit. Article 22, Village Center Overlay District, Sections 195-124, C245, 195-125B, Table 2, L1, L4, L8, L9, B9, and Section 195-104, Site Plan Review and Article 23's inclusionary housing bylaw as applicable for the construction of a 22 multi-unit townhouse development with associated site improvements and any other zoning relief that is deemed necessary. Site is located in Village Center Overlay District and consists of approximately 57,264 square feet, shown on the Assessors Map 84-336-19.
That was a mouthful.
Yes.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, and members of the board. For the record, my name's Philip Iliopoulos. I'm an attorney here in Chelmsford with offices at 9 North Road. I'm here on behalf of my client, John Benares. I don't know if he's here yet, but he should be here momentarily. Also, sort of part of our team, we've got Katie Enright, which is our engineer, and Kenneth Fail, who's the architect. I wanted to give a little background on this site. I'm only going to spend 2 or 3 minutes, then I'm going to turn it over to Katie, and we'll get right to the meat of it, okay? But I think there's been a lot of interest in tonight's agenda, and I think it would be helpful to kind of hear some of the history that the town undertook in studying the center of town, as well as this particular property. So back in 2010, the town did their decade master plan. And the master plan was a combination of multiple boards, spearheaded by the planning board, was adopted by the planning board, adopted by the Board of Selectmen, and adopted by town meeting. And the master plan looked at the Center Village District as one of the focal points and made the determination that housing would be an added component for the center of town, mainly to support the businesses. The master plan felt that it would help in some of the redevelopment of some of the more older buildings, some of the buildings that maybe weren't being utilized to their full capacity. And
Got it?
I don't have the letter, though.
Colleen,
Colleen, we can hear you.
mute yourself,
Oh, sorry,
please.
My apologies.
That's okay. And looked at the CV district and really focused on the need for housing. And in fact, the master plan identified this parcel as an underutilized parcel, as sort of a parcel that wasn't really being utilized for commercial, and felt that this property would make a good location for housing. So that was something that was in the master plan, as well as the housing plan looked at opportunities throughout the centers of town, both Chelmsford Center and Vinyl Square, to try to come up with pieces that might make sense for housing, and identified this particular property as well. And the town also did a Chelmsford Center Village housing study, which came up with the same determination that housing was desirable in the centers of town to help support the businesses and encourage some redevelopment. So, a little bit of kind of history about what the town has done to study the center of town and look at these properties. And so I think it's fair to say that housing is something the town looked at as being needed in the center of town. Some more history with regards to this project and this proposal. If the board remembers, it first came before you back, I think, in 2019. Hard to believe time has flown that much. And at the time, it was being proposed as a 60-plus unit, 4-story building. I don't know if that was a project really any of us were happy with. With the board's diligence and time, you met with us several times. We were able to kind of pare that project down. But even at the end, sort of the final rendition of that project was a 32-unit. The units were less in terms of number, but they also got bigger. So you had larger units. If you remember, there were penthouse units on the top floor that were a 3rd and 4th floor, so like a 2-story penthouse units. And that's when the board made a determination of applicability, but with the caution that we don't love this project. We don't like the height of the project. 4 stories seems too high. At the end of the day, that particular project, because it had an underground parking component, financially it didn't work. So they didn't pursue it. And that's when kind of John revisited the project, put the property under agreement, did away with a kind of, mass one, large building with multiple units, and came back before this board late spring, early summer with a 24-unit townhouse-style project. And we presented that to the board, made the determination that the applicability that was voted on with the 32-unit projects was still in force for the site, and got some feedback from the board. I think, as compared to what was being proposed before, my sense was that the board was more receptive to this project, this sort of look. There was some desire to look at maybe reducing the curb cuts. Right now, there's 2 curb cuts that exist, one on either side of that commercial building. We were proposing to keep 2 curb cuts, but there was a encouragement by the board to try to shrink it to 1, maybe have a 1 in, 1 out, but together, and to get it further away from Acton Road so that it was a little bit better than what exists there today. There was a desire to kind of keep the project as far back off Acton Road as we could to create some more landscaping opportunities up front, to try to organize the parking better, maybe create some more visitor parking, to be cognizant of density. And so I think what you'll see in the presentation, you've probably already seen, we've incorporated some of those recommendations, if not all of them, that the board had before. What we've also done is, because we understand that there's a desire to keep density as low as possible, we've voluntarily shrank the project on our own from 24 to 22 units now. So what was once a 60-unit, massive project is now down to 22. We think it gives us some opportunity to provide some additional visitor parking, some snow storage, some added landscaping, kind of space it out a little bit better so it doesn't look so cramped. There is obviously a financial component to that, and so one of the things you'll hear later in the project is to, drop those 2 units. We're going to ask for a slight reduction on the PILO. But we do think it makes for a better project and it's in keeping with, I think, the town's desire to be cautious of density. So what I think I'll do is turn the presentation over to Katie to walk you really through the specifics of the plan. Then we can have the architect come up, give a presentation on that, and then I can jump back in. And while I'm up, I'm vaccinated, but I'm going to take the mask off only while I'm speaking, and I'll put it on when I'm sitting down. All right? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone. Katie Enright with Howard Stein Hudson. Colleen, if you could bring up the colored rendering I sent you of the plan that was submitted, just so that it's a little bit easier to see. Colleen, you there? Oh, here we come. There was a colored one that was sent today. If you have that, Colleen. That stood independently.
Hold on one second, I thought I opened up the one you sent.
Okay, this is the second one I sent, it's just a little clearer. Okay, I'll get started while Colleen's bringing that up, just so you can have the project up on the screen while I'm speaking. As Phil mentioned, the project itself is known as 9 Acton Road, although the assessors have it as 13 Acton Road, so you'll see most of our paperwork has 13 Acton Road, AKA 9 Acton Road, so that we're all on the same page. The site itself is 1.32 acres, which is about 57,000 square feet. The project is located in the Center Village, and we've applied under the Center Village, or the Village Center Overlay. You switch the words when you went from Center Village to Village Center. We're also in the APD, which is the Aquifer Protection District. There's an existing building there today. It's about 29,000 gross square feet. It appears that there's a partial basement floor and then a first floor for that building. We're right on the edge of the CV district, and we're not within the historic district of the town center. The existing building has 2 large parking lots on both sides of the building, and the building itself, which puts the lot impervious area at about 81% under the existing condition. I think you'll find that the proposed condition is about 30% less impervious, so we're doing a significant reduction in impervious surface on this parcel. Also, all of the impervious surfaces on the existing parcel, essentially some of it runs uncontrolled out to Acton Road, but most of it runs uncontrolled to the brook itself without any catch basins or any kind of drainage improvements.
Do we have this?
This is just a colored version of the site plan that was submitted.
Okay.
The only thing that this does is add color. It's just to make things pop a little bit better. But I provided this to Colleen today, just so you have it within your file. Just helps better distinguish what's building and grass.
Okay, thanks.
The proposed project is for, as Phil stated, 22 townhomes. When we were here before you for the CEIOD or the CVOD permitting, under applicability, we had 24 townhomes. We did reduce that in 2 units when we were recreating the layout based on the existing conditions plan, and also bringing in a lot of the feedback that we had from this board during that CVOD permitting applicability. As Phil stated, some of that related to parking. So with this project, we have 3 extra spaces on site. Before, we had exactly what the zoning bylaw allowed, which was 2 spaces per unit plus 1 space per 5 units for visitor, and that's what's in your zoning bylaw for the Center Village Overlay District for multifamily housing. So we've added 3 additional parking spaces for this layout. What we've also done is, as Phil said, we've consolidated the driveway. So the driveway is pushed up as far as it can up Acton Road, and that's to allow for fire protection to turn around within the lot. So a fire truck will come into the lot, it'll pull to the right, it'll back up to the left, and is able to pull out. And that plan is also within the files that were presented to you, and the fire department has reviewed that as part of their letter that they have on file for tonight. Each building, or the buildings themselves, are 3 stories. The garage is at the first level with a room behind the garage, and then there's living on the first, essentially the 2nd floor and the 3rd floor. And Ken will go through that with you. The units are about 1,500 square feet for each. Each unit is proposed with 3 bedrooms, but one of those bedrooms is labeled bedroom study on that first level behind the garage. In meeting with DPW and reviewing the sewer that was allowed for this project, we will be proposing to remove 2 closets from 2 of those rooms to keep the bedroom count at 64 rather than 66, to be consistent with the original applicability for sewer for the project. So 2 of the units will count as 2 bedrooms only, and then the rest of the units will have the ability to be 3 bedrooms, and that'll keep us within the original applicability for the project as far as the number of bedrooms. Even though we shrunk the number of units considerably, the bedrooms didn't quite match up based on 32 2-bedroom units. The project itself now has 52 parking spaces. There's 2 per unit, 1 inside the garage, 1 exterior of the garage, and an area where we couldn't put the garage right in front of the unit. There's 1 in very close proximity. Again, we've significantly reduced the impervious surface. We've proposed drainage to meet the stormwater management standards. We have some infiltration in the front of the buildings in the way of pervious pavers in front of some of the units. And then we also have internal structural BMPs to basically clean the water before it heads out towards the brook at the back of the property. And we're working with also the engineering staff there to make sure under the new stormwater management bylaws, we will have to prove that we've reduced phosphorus by 50%. So we're going to work on possibly switching out one of those best management practices to make sure we meet the newly updated stormwater bylaw. As Philip also stated, the project is set back 40 feet, and some of our waivers or special permits have to do with that. It was talked about previously, and I believe town council had chimed in about the fact that in the CVOD, in this area, if we were to propose a building within 40 feet, the first floor would have to be commercial. We're not looking to do commercial as per the previous project, so all buildings are set back 40 feet from the street, so we're not within that commercial zone or that build-to zone, which creates a front yard for each of the units facing Acton Road. And you can see here, we've proposed street trees and a sidewalk and some open space essentially between Acton Road and each of these units. And also talking with DPW, they'd like us to where we bring the sidewalk into our site, continue it down Acton Road on Acton Road, so we might have a double sidewalk on Acton Road and then kind of meandering through the site so that we do have that consistent sidewalk on Acton Road itself. Also for pedestrian connectivity, the DPW is looking to require us to put in a crosswalk with a flashing beacon to the stairs at Bartlett Park across the street, which is right across Acton Road from this site. And that's something that came out in their letter late yesterday, early today, so we're looking at also the possibility of adding that. Under the CVOD, there's a lot of different requirements. The dimensional table is quite large, so you'll see we've gone through that in our report and in our dimensional table. The CVOD allows 1,800 square feet per, or requires 1,800 square feet per dwelling unit. I believe that's where they got to the original 32 units for this site. We actually have only 22 units, so 10 less than we would be allowed under the CVOD based on square footage. The units are 20 feet apart, and each building is less than 8 units. There's that one building in the front to the right where we've consolidated the units, and that's to basically get rid of that second driveway and move the driveway all the way further down. Special permits are listed out, although this would be one giant special permit essentially under the overlay district. The project is more than 10,000 square feet, so that requires a special permit. There's more than 2 structures. There's also 5 or more residential units. There's a requirement in there for lot frontage, which Evan and I discussed. We weren't quite sure where the bylaw was going with this. It requires 16 feet minimum and 48-foot maximum per dwelling unit for lot frontage. If we were to take all 22 units, we would require 352 feet of frontage, which we have 299 feet of frontage because the units themselves are not along the frontage. There's 2 rows of units. So we're a little bit deficient there based on the interpretation that I received from community development. Again, the front yard maximum is 15 feet, but because there's no commercial, we're at 40 feet. There's a minimum side setback of 5 feet with a max of 15, but on the left, we're adjacent to residential, so we're required to have 20. So we put that in there just to be careful, make sure that we ask for all of the permits necessary. The build-to zone is 0 to 15 feet. Obviously, in the frontage, we're obviously outside that. We're not applicable really within the build-to zone, so we added that in there also because, again, that's that first 40 feet. Minimum length and depth of front wall offset is required to be 10 feet width for every 5 foot back. We're 10 and 1. So we asked for a special permit there. We need to add the Aquifer Protection District, which we're in, anything that's over 15% impervious surface, which we meet all the requirements of the APD, but we'll be adding that to the list of special permits. We also have fences on both sides of the property, which we will specify essentially to add to the vegetative buffer, not only for our residential abutter to the left, but also to buffer the residents from the gas station and the cleaners to the right. We've provided a lighting and landscaping plan in the package. The landscaping plan adds 17 trees, almost 200 shrubs, and a variety of grasses. And basically, we're proposing both arborvitaes and a screen essentially on both the left and right-hand sides of the property, street trees along the front, and then foundation plantings throughout. We're buffering the transformer in the front of the building and also providing significant grass areas throughout. We also have the proposed brook walk off to the left. We don't own the property all the way to the brook, so we're showing it kind of going down the side of the project where we had shown it originally in the application, kind of TBD, where we don't own the property really past there, and that area is currently treed. We really can't go back there much further with environmental permitting, so we kind of showed it as far as we could based on the bylaw. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ken Fail, and Colleen, if you can pull up the renderings of the architecture, Ken can talk to you about the buildings.
Good evening. My name is Ken File, owner of LYF Architects out of Andover, Massachusetts. We're the architect for the project. And just the cover rendering will be sufficient for right now. As it's been mentioned previously, these are 3-story townhomes clustered in 2 to 8 units. There are single level, on the first level is where the garages are. So every unit has a garage, with a parking space in its own driveway. You can actually go to the next. Perfect. There's the first, that's the ground level where we have garages, and then we have, this is one of the buildings along the main street, so the front entry is next to the garage. In the back is the den bedroom with a bath and utility rooms. On the second level are the living quarters. It's the kitchen, living room, and a bathroom. And then on the third floor are 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. If we can go back to the main color rendering, that'd be great. Thank you. It's traditional New England architecture elements. We have gable roofs, we have box bays, we have dormers, we have stone veneer at the unit entries, we have clapboard siding, and we have PVC trim and panels, as well as a precast stone base. Very traditional New England architecture. We felt that was appropriate for this site. Very straightforward architecture-wise. There are no garage doors facing the main street. All the garages face internal to the site, and each unit has a deck. And with that, I'll turn it back to Phil.
Excuse me. What's the streetscape look like?
Streetscape.
So you're driving by on the
Yep.
street.
That's actually the first perspective. So the main perspective.
I thought they showed garage doors. I thought you
Nope.
said.
No, this right here is the main street.
Yeah.
40
So,
feet back.
Yeah.
so that's the main door.
I understand.
There's other plans that show the flip side. My apologies.
Yeah.
Question?
Yes.
The 1,500 square feet per unit, does that include the garage space or exclude it?
It includes it. Oh, wait, sorry.
It doesn't.
It does.
It does.
Yes. Yep.
I,
Okay, I turn it back to Phil.
so, that's all you had right now.
Yeah, just one last.
Once you're done, we're gonna read the letters.
Oh,
Are you done now, Phil, or do you have
I
any?
was going to talk about the pilot, but I can.
Yeah,
go right
no,
after
go
the
ahead
letter.
if you want.
Just some background there, we did meet with David Hedison about a month ago, went through the project. We reached out to the Affordable Housing Committee, and the thought was to come first to the board for one meeting, then we'll meet with them, and then come back to the board again. So we won't be seeking a vote tonight. I know everyone's going to be disappointed about it. We'll be looking for a continuance. The Pilo is 5 for 5.5 units. So you don't get to go to 5, you round up to 6. So if you round up to 6, the Pilo would be 687,500. What we'll be looking for is a 30% reduction in the Pilo to 481,250. Part of that's the roundup of the half a unit, taking down 2 units to kind of add to the project. And, we think it will help make for a better project, certainly. So we will be bringing that to the Affordable Housing Committee to kind of look at with us and talk about. But just wanted to kind of put that on the table as well. So just so you're aware of it.
No problem. You probably had a conversation with Evan, though, about the Pilo, how we were talking about, we wanted full Pilo going forward. I think that was going to be mentioned previous, but we'll go from there.
Yeah.
All right, Phil, thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to read the letters?
I will read letters.
Excellent, thank you.
Oh, good, okay. My client is on remote, so he is listening.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay. So the first letter is from the Department of Public Works. Dear members, this office has reviewed the site plans by Howard Stein Hudson Associates, consisting of 13 sheets dated April 21st, 2021, and a supplemental data report dated September 2021. As a result of this review, this office has the following comments. 1, this department shall be notified when work on site is to commence in order to arrange for inspections. 2, snow storage does not appear adequate. 3, any revision to the drainage system shall be submitted and approved by this office. 4, a stormwater operation and maintenance plan shall be followed as described in the report. Copies of any inspections or other reports done in accordance with the plan shall be forwarded to the engineering office. 5, a site as-built shall be provided upon completion of the work on site. As-built to include a letter from the engineer stating that all stormwater devices have been built to satisfy Mass stormwater standards. Provide all supporting documents and calculations. The as-built shall be from a ground survey and submitted in AutoCAD and paper form. 6, all unsuitable material discovered shall be removed and disposed of in accordance with state and local regulations. 7, this project requires a NPDES Construction General Permit. A final copy of the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, SWPPP, must be submitted to the town as well as filed with EPA prior to beginning any site work. 8, the sewer moratorium imposed by the Chelmsford Department of Public Works that became effective on September 15th, 2020, does not apply to this project because a determination of applicability was approved prior to the effective date of the moratorium. Since the moratorium is not applicable, they are allowed to tie into the town's sewer system. 9, the proposed sewer work will require permitting and applicable fees from the DPW Sewer Division for connection to the municipal sewer system. 10, a road opening permit is required from the Chelmsford DPW Highway Division for work within the Acton Road right-of-way. 11, trench permits shall be filed as necessary per 520 CMR 14.00, Chapter 82A. 12, the design engineer is in the process of completing design and drafting revisions to the plans according to the recommendations of this office. If you have any questions, please contact this office at 978-250-5228. Sincerely, Christina Papadopoulos. The next letter is from Chelmsford Fire Department, Fire Prevention Office. Dear members of the board, the Fire Prevention Office has reviewed the proposal for a new townhouse condominium development at 9 Acton Road and finds the following. Water supply appears to be adequate. The required pressure and flow shall be confirmed by a current water flow test performed proximate to the site, with all calculations submitted to this department for review and approval. The fire department requests that the hydrant at the entrance to the complex be moved to a more centralized location, which will decrease the distance to the nearest hydrant for at least 2 fire department connections. Remaining hydrant locations are acceptable. This office has contacted the project engineer who will provide the requested modification. Access for firefighting apparatus and emergency vehicles is acceptable. The swept path analysis demonstrates acceptable apparatus access using a turning template based on Chelmsford Fire Department Ladder 1. Snow storage shall not obstruct or impede fire access roads or turnarounds. All buildings, apart from the duplex unit, shall be protected with a monitored automatic sprinkler system that conforms with NFPA 13. Monitoring shall be provided by a UL-approved central station monitoring service, and all components and fire protection systems must comply with state building code and CFD requirements. All work on fire alarm and sprinkler systems must be permitted through the Chelmsford Fire Department online permitting system. The applicant must apply to the Town of Chelmsford E911 Committee for addresses through its coordinator, Town Clerk Tricia Zuris. This office approves of this plan with these conditions. I ask the board to make this letter a part of their approval process. Respectfully submitted, Captain Katsoufis. The next letter Planning Board memorandum from Colleen Stansfield. This is the Board of Health response, and it has no comments. The next letter is again, the form letter from the police response with no comments. The following letter is the form response from the building department, no comments. And that's the end of the responses.
All right. Bring it around the board for questions. Henry, you want to start? Do you have anything?
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot to digest here.
Yeah.
One thing I will say, this is the center of town. I don't want to hear that the project took 2 years and they didn't get the landscaping done because they were waiting for the last occupancy, and that I had never been there. That just, somehow or another, we gotta put teeth in it, that if they do something that we don't like, it's gonna hurt. I do like 22 units better than the 64 that we originally started with. They're still big, but that's my only comment for right now.
Okay, Paul?
I think the site's more conducive to 18 units, and then they would be more in line with the frontage requirements. That's my opinion on it.
Okay.
Sure.
Mike? Mike?
So the question for the architect, is the fourth floor, the attic, accessible at all by any of these units?
No, sir.
So the windows that you see on the fourth, those are
They're purely ornamental.
architectural?
That's correct.
Okay, great. No, I mean, I pick up on, I think it's really dense for that corner. I think they did originally have 2 driveways. They took our suggestion of moving the 1 driveway up, which I think is good for that corner. And then the height, I was just worried about that, but I see that. And I think we have to get into the PILO discussion and then look at the number of parking spaces and the density of this. That's all I have.
Thanks, Mike. Mike?
Well, I agree with the previous comments. Just an agricultural and, agriculture, right, an architectural and lot placement comment is it seems to be awfully straight and presenting, if you will, the maximum possible frontage out on the street. Now, I haven't looked at it in detail. I don't know if things can be moved or cocked or...
Colleen, can you bring up the plan so we can see the front?
You can see the front, it's pretty straight across there.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what it needs to be. Well, not that one. We need the...
Well, that's what you...
That is the front,
That is
yeah.
the
Well,
front.
that, as I calculated, that's from somewhere in the middle of that traffic island.
Well, yeah, that's somewhere with perfectly flat land with no trees or...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the elevation.
Which it isn't.
But if you note across this property, the buildings basically form a straight line. And in effect, occupying the maximum possible portion of the street view that they could. Whether that can be adjusted, I don't know, but that was an impression that I got.
Okay,
Other than that, I agree with the comments made so far.
all right. Deirdre?
A couple things. I guess one is a question for the developer. I'm wondering, how are you planning on pricing these units? Is that something that we're able to ask about or learn of?
I do have that information, but let me see. John, can you hear us? John, are you on the, John Fanaris, are you able to hear the meeting?
We can
Yes,
come back.
Phil.
Oh, yes. What are you looking at in terms of estimated pricing per unit?
I think would just be in line with like fair market value. I haven't done a CMA, a market analysis yet, but I use a local broker and whatever it comes in at, probably, that's what they're gonna list them.
Yeah, we can try to develop a range, try to come up with a sense for our next.
Yeah, I could come up with a number. I could have them put a analysis together.
Okay.
Okay.
So I guess one thing I would like, and maybe I just missed it, I did look through everything several times, but I'd love to see a list. I know it's, because it's a special permit in the CVOD, it's a one comprehensive special permit, but I'd love to see the things outlined, like line by line, that you're looking for waivers of in that format. We had.
I think it's part of the application.
Under two.
Okay.
It's in the app.
Yep, we've got each one separately listed, even though it's
Okay.
one special permit.
All right, I guess I'll look again for that. I noticed that the height at the top of the building is 39 feet 8 inches, and the height by right is 35, correct?
That's correct, but it's per the definition of your zoning bylaw, and your zoning bylaw defines height as average grade around the structure to the mean roof on a pitched roof. So it meets the requirements of the
So it's at the
bylaw.
tip- the
It's
tip of the top.
34.5. Our height per the definition is 34.5 feet, which is under the 35 required per your definition.
Okay. And then, we had a conversation at a work session, which I know obviously you guys weren't present at, but about the Pilo, and my understanding from David Hedison's commentary, who was present at the meeting, that he wasn't interested in being involved in reviewing the Pilo formulations any further and giving a blessing or not. He just didn't want to have a role in that process. And I actually followed up with him and inquired about that subsequently, and he reiterated that position. So I'm surprised to hear that.
Well, I think what David's saying is he doesn't want to be, and I don't want to speak for him, but my understanding was he doesn't want to be the one that's going to sit there and analyze the financials and look at if it is going to have an affordability component. He doesn't want to be the one to do the analysis of how much profit, et cetera. We met with him more as sort of, you know, the Housing Commission is sort of the spearhead of the Affordable Housing Committee, so we met with him first in anticipation of setting up a meeting with the Affordable Housing Committee itself.
Okay.
But I think you're right, he does not want to be involved in analyzing the financials of the project. He made that clear to us, and that's fine.
Right.
We're okay with that.
So at our workshop about the Pilo,
Yep.
we reviewed similar regulations from numerous towns and found that ours are, we're like the only town that reduces the Pilo, and our numbers were significantly, I think, lower than other towns. We all decided that the numbers were low, but that we would leave them low because the point is to generate affordable housing units, which, first of all, I'd rather have the units, and I know other people have other concerns, maybe, and I have concerns too about the density. But that said, I mean, the Pilo is low, and we decided to keep it low with the idea that we would insist on the full Pilo.
So,
And, you know, so presumably a two-bedroom unit, I don't know. I mean, I was looking at units because my mom's putting her house on the market, and, you know, maybe it's 400,000 or 500,000, I don't know. But, so we're talking about an amount that's probably 1 point something units of affordable housing. And if we don't get the Pilo from you, then we have to build the units ourselves. And currently, we're in a situation where we're out of safe harbor because we haven't gotten the units from developers, nor gotten enough money to build enough units. So I personally feel like if the point of the inclusionary housing bylaw and the point of the Pilo is to generate affordable units, we should either get the affordable units or we should get the full Pilo.
That was because I'm sorry, I missed the workshop. Was the workshop just specific to this project?
No,
or
it was
going
general-
forward, that
general about
Any
Pilo.
future projects, the town doesn't want to
Right.
look at the Pilo at all?
No more
Okay.
reductions, basically.
And so we may have to look at the number of units to make it work.
Yeah.
I have to look at those numbers, obviously.
And then I have two more quick things. One is the sewer. I'm a little confused still about the sewer. I hate to belabor the point, but I was looking at the moratorium, and it requires two things. One, that there's previously exempted from the moratorium, which this property clearly, I've been told by council, was, but it also has to am I not correct that it has to be a previously unconnected site? And I assume this site has a connection. So I'm like, if you look at the two things that are required, it seems like this only has one of them to be able to connect. Am I wrong?
No, it's
I don't know enough
connected.
about it.
It's that it is connected previously.
Okay, so maybe I read it wrong.
And the sewer, I believe, is addressed in Christina Papadopoulos' letter.
Yeah, I know, I just didn't understand that. And then the last thing is, from your drawing, I can't tell, and I didn't understand what you said, Katie, about the brook. Like, where is the brook relative to the boundary?
It's off the property to the rear. Okay. It's actually, you can kind of see it right here.
Okay.
Is that a hill there, too?
Yep, it goes down the river, yep.
And
You
who
can see it.
owns the intervening?
This belongs to the grist mill. The grist mill owns to the other side.
Both
of the
sides?
brook.
Oh, I didn't realize that, okay. Thank you.
Good. Nancy?
Yeah, okay. Well, I guess first, I would like to say that I like the concept of the townhouses a lot better than I like the old plans.
Agree.
However, I am disappointed at the size of these townhouses and the concentration of them. These are effectively about 1,200 square feet of living space and 3 bedrooms. And that's pretty compact space. I looked at your floor plans, and it kind of reminds me of military housing. And I'm sorry, but that really is an insult. The other thing that strikes me, that I want to put out there right now, is that the landscaping plan, materials in particular, we need to look at. There are species listed under shrubs that get to be 40 to 50 feet high, and I fail to believe that they're shrubs. Pin oaks really shouldn't be used in terms of maintaining dry, dead leaves all winter. The eastern red cedar is directly up against your fence, and it tends to have a 15-foot spread. So that really doesn't work there. And you've got junipers scattered all over the place. And junipers are a really good landscape plant if you're in the eastern half of Virginia, where it's not very snowy. But up here, you really have to wrap those things every winter, or the snow destroys them. So I would wholeheartedly recommend against them. I think you need to go away and look at that landscape plan.
No, I
Okay.
think if, we have a registered landscape architect that's
I
certified
know.
in the state, that if you could provide us with comments, I
Yeah.
would be happy to give them to James
Okay.
Emanuel to review the landscape plan.
Okay, thank you.
We are going by, as you know, and I know you've been working on your bylaw, but your bylaw is what tells us what to put on a plan,
Yeah.
or what's acceptable and not acceptable. So until the bylaw is updated, we only have so much. And some of it is word of mouth, some of it's just the fact that I'm here and can hear what you have to say during public hearings. But I'd be happy to bring that to James, and we would update the plan.
Okay.
We've never heard her complain about pin oaks.
Only as it relates to the side of a parking lot. That's exactly what she said in the past, is don't put it in a parking lot.
No, that was all oaks.
So, no, it was Pin Oaks in particular, and Pin Oaks has been
That
a
was-
running joke throughout, but it's
That's
based
right.
on being adjacent to a parking
Yeah.
lot. I've never heard do not use it, and we've used
Don't use
it
Pin Oaks.
previously.
Yeah, just don't use Pin Oaks.
And it's been acceptable, so.
So,
She amazes me with the landscaping. She knows everything about them.
I didn't check all the plans, I just checked a few that were just red flags.
Most of the concerns these guys have already talked about. Snow storage, I mean, it's huge. I absolutely don't know where you're gonna put it all, and I would really hate to hear that you're gonna be removing it, and that would be part of the plan. But where would you put the snow on this?
There is portions of landscaping throughout the site, and it would be removed, as every property within the center of town, it is removed. And
Okay, well, all right, and, basically what they said, the density too, but other than that, I'm all set for right now. We'll open up the public hearing, and let's hear what the public has to say. Anybody? Come on up. Come on up, state your name, address.
Good evening. I am Joseph Fitzgibbons. My family and I are the residential abutters to the 9 Acton Road project. And just a couple of things I wanted to bring out. I have like 6 bullet items. The first one's extremely important, and that is the height of the project and its relation to the historic homes on Acton Road. And that's what they abut. As mentioned, they pull the project 40 feet and landscape the front of it. And, I think that we should do at least that, 40 to 60 feet, buffering the residential part. That front unit, number 22, is 20 feet from our property line.
Colleen, can you put the plan up so we can kind of just look at it, the colored one? Just so we have it in reference while you're speaking. You can keep going, sorry.
No, actually, that would help, so. But that's 20 feet from our property, directly adjacent to our kitchen, with the top floors looking right into our master bedroom. And that structure is 20 feet from our property line. And unit number 1, the one behind it, that's directly adjacent to our pool. The structure is, and I don't really, you see a 3+ floors with that, and that's, I have a wife and 2 daughters.
Yeah.
And it's an issue.
Yeah.
It's an issue. So we do think that there should be some protection against the historical homes that abut that property, some space. Again, where we are pulling the curb cut, we pull that as far away from the center, but as far into the residential part that we can. And that's going to be, it's tough to tell from that diagram, but, we're pulling it into the residences and towards that. And I don't think that's what we want. And, the height, I think it's still, this really looks like what we looked at in 2019 as far as, that's 3+. So, for us personally, we like to see something tasteful, like maybe Ginger Ale Plaza, so at least 1 floor less. 2 with a peak, I don't know. But I know they have to cram as much in there as possible.
Colleen, if you have the plan with the color, the one that she sent you earlier today, so that we could see the units that are facing his house.
Actually, I want to see the outlook with the landscaping, that demonstrates it. The lot layout. Yeah, so I think we'd like to see something like this here.
So you'd like the driveway on the side?
Something like this
He wants this.
Oh, yeah.
Green
here.
grass.
Yeah, it's kind of my comment.
So, I mean, we're not against condos and housing. We spent many great years at Woodcrest, actually, a great place, but I think that, you know, so we like this with one less floor.
Are there windows on the sides of the end
That's what I was
units?
gonna ask.
What's that?
There are windows on this? Yeah.
Yes. A few, not a lot.
Yeah, we don't have a view from 19 Acton Road, I think, on the plan submitted.
Has anyone reached out to you yet, out of curiosity?
We have not heard from the developer or anyone. And then, so that's the big thing for me. The other ones, I'll just run through them. Traffic, has a traffic study been done particular to this project?
I don't think so. No.
I'm not sure it's large.
We would like to
I don't
request
think it's
one.
big enough to, considering the amount of traffic on that road, this is minuscule.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. What was it?
I said, considering the amount of traffic on that road, what would be added by this is absolutely minuscule. It's such a small percentage increase that it would be irrelevant.
Yeah, we would be very interested in number of trips in and out and the queue to get in and out.
After hours, I
Queuing is
think
a
is
bigger
where we're
issue.
concerned.
If you have,
It's,
we'd like you to come up to the podium and please introduce yourself, and so that everybody in the TV can hear you too. It's not just us.
All right, so,
I'm married to her.
no problem, we
We're
understand.
just trying to get the comments out to the public.
yeah.
So we got that, though. Traffic is an issue for you. We got that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be an impact. What it is, we would like to get an idea. And then the parking, one visitor space for every 5 units. We would like to know where the overflow would go. And that brings up the other part of what's going on across the street. I mean, in front of our house, there's a sidewalk and a curb. And then on the other side, over at Bartlett Park, is that currently it's not posted, but is that no parking?
I'm not sure.
And if not, we would probably want to, I mean, we're not going to have a string of cars
Right.
parking up there overnight.
But problematic, it's a state highway anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, we didn't know, was
State highway.
it's
Yeah.
a state highway, so there is no parking? Is that the way?
It's not
Okay.
permitted.
Yep. Signage to parking, and then I didn't see handicap parking on that lot, but I think will probably be addressed. And the other one is pets. Will there be no pets allowed? Or are there going to be accommodations for pets? There was one in an original plan for a
Yeah, there were a pet
Yeah.
park or something.
pet park right by our pool, which we would not want, so I just want to know
Right.
if there was any type of update on that. And the density, the number of residents, if you're looking at 3 bedrooms, 22 units, you could have 132 people there. And what's the size? It's less than 2 acres, that lot, I think?
1.3.
Yeah, that's 132 people, 3 minus 2 bedrooms, so. And then the other was the timing of this, everything was kind of thrown together. We haven't really had a chance to go over so would there be a continuation on the public part of it?
Yeah, we won't be voting on this tonight. So tonight, we're at public hearing, we're going to be listening to you. Hopefully, what's going to happen also is the developers are going to reach out to the neighbors and, talk to you guys, and, when we come back, hopefully there'll be some changes.
Yeah, I mean, we'd be happy to work with them, but then, it's 40 feet tall, 39 point something, and like I said about my first comments, our master bedroom and the pool, you're not gonna put in 40-foot trees, I don't know, but, like I said, we'd like to see something like this buffering the neighborhood at least. You know, there's a very large area between the houses, you know, on Acton Road. So this would be, and that house
About
is.
moving the entrance down. You know what I mean?
You end up with the fire department.
Yeah.
No.
Then they can't
Yeah.
turn.
Yeah, it's the fight.
We would like to see a yard, you know? I mean, our house has been there 135 years, and this would be a shock to it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we'll take everything that you're saying, and then hopefully, as I said, you know, you can meet with the developer. Hopefully, there will be some changes made, and we'll go from there.
right there. I just said one other thing, and that is, there is currently a fence there in disrepair, and I got this, if you guys could take a peek at this, if it's still applicable. It has to do with the old bowling alley, that fence has to be there and stay repaired, but I don't even know if that's still.
Well, I'm not going to be able to read it all now,
Yep.
but I will take
Nope, I wanted to-
take a look at it, and
Get it in the record.
yeah, we can put it into record if you want, and read it. Okay, thank you.
It's on a,
We'll read it after.
it's on a 1971 typewriter, so I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No,
All right,
we
that's it for
appreciate
me.
you taking the time coming out tonight, and hopefully you'll be able to get a meeting together.
Appreciate you folks giving us the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else, please come up and state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Chris Flammia. I'm a resident of 48 Bartlett Street, which is just up behind, off of Bartlett Park. I'm also too concerned about the traffic, the increase in cars on the road. It seems like that corner and that turn is, to me, there's quite a bit of traffic there. I travel it every day, and all of those cars that will be taking a left on Acton Road will be coming through the center of town. And as we come through the center of town, we have to cut across that traffic to get up to our street. That road behind the library is also a fairly treacherous road. I don't know if any of you guys have ever tried to cross the street back there, but it's fairly treacherous, and with the number of cars that are currently going through there, adding another additional amount of traffic, I think would just, you know, add to the overall traffic problem in the center of town. Used to be at a point where you could get through the center of town at some points of the day without having to sit at that light for 2 or 3 cycles, but that seems to have gone by the wayside. So like I said, any additional traffic would be a burden getting through the center, which would cause people to have to go through and take cut-throughs down Summer Street, perhaps take a right on Acton Road, cut through High Street to get to the center of town, or High Street back out to, what is it?
110.
110, yeah, back on the right-hand side. So I think that overflow traffic would sort of disperse through the various neighborhoods as well. Thank you.
Thank you. If you could if your comments are similar, you know, would appreciate it, because we're hearing them. And then also, we're not going to be voting tonight, so please know that. And then hopefully you'll have time to address your concerns. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Donna Reddy. I live at 11 Cushing Place, so I'm a resident across the brook from this project. I just have a few things that I'm concerned about. Again, you had mentioned snow removal, and I know that we have that problem on our side, and that the space that they have set aside is not nearly enough room to put their snow. It would have to be trucked out if they were to just use that area.
Does yours have to be trucked out?
We, at one point last year, had to do that, which was very costly, yes, because it was filling up in our turnaround, which would have been a safety problem. So we had to have it trucked out. So I realized, just looking at this plan, that it's not going to work, what they have. The second thing that is I've thought about is the parking. Being in real estate for the last 30-plus years, I have seen many people who use that garage as their storage area for their home. And I see no real storage area in these units for people to put their stuff, okay? So what's going to transpire is that they're going to fill up their garages full of their things, and then they're going to have 2 cars they're going to need to park somewhere. And with only 8 additional parking spaces, in which at least 2 of them should be ADA accessible handicap parking. That really only leaves 6 extra spots. So if 6 of these units use their garage for some other purpose, then, we have no guest parking whatsoever there. So that point I wanted to bring out. One other thing was the playground. Being a teacher, I looked at that playground and thought, children and playgrounds and water are not always a good combination, and I just know that we're going to end up with children down below into the vegetation, et cetera, around the brook, or worse, have any kind of issue with children and the brook. So I found that to be a problem that could come out later on with this project. Lastly, I'm concerned about the amount of lighting in the back of the buildings for those units that would be facing towards the brook. We have minimal lighting on our side, and I know that the residents in my building would prefer not to have bright lights from the back of the building shining into their units. And lastly, I would like to make sure that the vegetation along the brook is not disturbed, so that they would still have that kind of buffer and a nice appearance that is hopefully going to stay there for a long time. So those are the issues that I found to be important to our area.
Thank you very much for your time. Come on up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John Belskis, a resident at 79 Acton Road. I've been looking at bits and pieces of this, and a couple of things struck me because I pursued it. I've only been here 3 years, so I don't know everything about the town and you folks.
Excuse me for 1 second. Could you take your conversation outside, because unfortunately it's echoing up here. Thank you. Go ahead,
Are we a little
sir.
louder? Oh.
No, you're fine. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. 2 things that I don't see really highlighted here. The water and sewer issue. I was kind of surprised a year or so ago that we went into water rationing in May, one of the wettest springs we've had. So I pursued it with I guess it's a private company that supplies the water in this town. So I asked them if we were suffering from a water shortage. And they said, no, we don't have a problem with water shortage. We do have an issue with the storage, which supplies the pressure. Now, I don't know if that's been addressed or if it's even been considered, but that's the response I got from the water department. I may even still have the letter. Sewerage, I noticed lately, reports popping up that we're exceeding our allotted capacity. So here we have a building that probably has minimal sewerage coming out of it, and we're going to put 200 some odd people in there, which is going to contribute to it. So if we're already blowing the number on what we're allocated per the state for the sewerage, I don't know, either stop renting it out to Tewksbury or pull back. But those are 2 critical issues, and they affect us as residents. And I'd like to see you people address that.
Thank you. Thank
Give
you.
you food for thought.
No, thank you very much. Is there anyone on Zoom calling?
Oh, the person right now.
Yeah, you can step up. Step up if you want to speak whenever the next one's done.
Sean Griffin, Precinct 9 Representative, 9 Bishop Street.
Yes, Sean.
I wanted to echo some of the concerns from previous abutters, primarily about the height of the structure. Now, personal experience states when you have a residential home, 2-story, 1960s sort of style house, right? You put a 4-story building behind it, it's going to invade your privacy a little bit. And at my personal residence, we have had that experience. You have to deal with, folks looking out their windows down into your backyard. When, the trees lose their leaves in the fall, then you start having even more privacy issues, even still as time goes on throughout the winter. You'll see cars' headlights going through the trees. Obviously, there's nothing barrier there. And I know I saw some arborvitaes as a visual barrier, but if some of those trees die over time, if they get crushed for any reason because of snow, another tree loses a branch and crushes it, they're pretty fragile in that regard, at least to my knowledge. So I think in regards to an additional barrier or side yard, I think this board should heavily consider it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Cindy Goodland. I am at 11 Cushing Place, Grist Mill Condominiums. We have addressed the snow issue, but I do want to point out, ask a question. In the picture that we see in the back of the building, between the two buildings, there's a picture of 3 shrubs. And on one of the other plans, they're putting that area as snow removal. So is it a space for shrubbery, or is it a space for snow removal? And I have to agree with Donna. There's no way they're going to have to truck that out. I mean, I know the problems that we have at Grist Mill. It's very tight. It's very tight. I'd also, too, like to address the height of the buildings. The buildings in the back of the property that run along the brook, they're going to be, because of the height, they're going to be facing and looking into the bedrooms of 16 of the Grist Mill units. So again, we're talking about privacy, lighting, noise, those types of things. Is also a concern. And Donna brought up the playground, and I too, a parent, very concerned about the safety of the children and the environment, the kids venturing into the brook, and disturbing the fragile environment. And those are my primary concerns. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Colleen, anyone on Zoom?
Scott Venier?
Hi, Scott.
Hi, thank you. I live at 18 Perham Street, and I'm also one of the directors of the Chelmsford Land Conservation Trust, the owners of Bartlett Park right across the street. Though I am not speaking tonight on behalf of the trust, we haven't had a chance to have a meeting since the packet was published, so we don't have an official response to this yet. We have not had a chance also to talk with the developers about this iteration. We spoke with them years ago on the original, but not about this particular one. And so for my comment, I just wanted to echo something that Mr. Parley mentioned early on, that the landscaping is going to be an issue. No, I shouldn't say is going to be, is something that I personally am concerned about. I've seen a lot of these projects, when they've gone in, the finished landscaping has not, has not had, mature trees, has not had, somebody else mentioned, necessarily the appropriate choice of species. So I'd like to see more native and species, more mature plants put in, so we can make sure that they're going to survive and that they're going to be big enough to provide visual look. And also one other comment, something I heard about, or just heard tonight, is someone mentioned, I think it was Miss Enright mentioned something about a crosswalk over to the stairs in Bartlett Park, and that's something that we as the Land Trust need to talk about, because that retaining wall and those stairs are actually about to be reconstructed without the stairs, in fact, because the retaining wall is crumbling, so we need to rebuild it, and we're not planning to put those stairs back in. So we need to talk about that, possibly moving the signaled crosswalk down the road a little bit to the Bartlett woodlot. Yeah, so those are my concerns. Hopefully, in the future, we can actually have a conversation of with the full board of the land trust, and the land trust can also present, in an official manner, our concerns as an organization.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in here want to speak? Anyone else on Zoom calling?
I don't see anybody, oh, wait a second. Nope, nobody with their hand up, I'm sorry.
Anybody else have any comments on the board?
I would just suggest that the gentleman that just spoke, the Bartlett Park, if they need to, they should organize within the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I think Phil is going to...
They need to come to this
set up-
meeting and speak if they want to.
I think Phil's going to be setting up a meeting.
Yeah, I'm happy to meet with the Conservation Trust, and I'll stay at the end too, because I'd like to get Joseph your contact information so I can set up a meeting with you as the direct abutter. I also want to, not to get into all the comments tonight, we'd be happy to remove the crosswalk and the signal into Bartlett Park. That's not something we've proposed. We don't want it. It just came as a recommendation or a desire from the DPW, but just for the Conservation Trust that might be listening tonight, that is not something we feel we need for this project, so we're happy to eliminate that. And the board could eliminate that.
Yeah, it'd be great for you to take this opportunity
Yeah.
to, do your thing and then come back to us and...
Yeah, and hopefully the board would be amenable to eliminating that, even if it was a recommendation from the DPW. But we'll take care of reaching out to the trust and to the abutter.
Okay, all right, so the public knows that, then they're going to be reaching out to you, and the next meeting, we'll continue this, obviously, the public, we're going to keep it open, and we'll go from there.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Done, you need a motion to continue?
Yes, please.
You have it.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Evan, are we all set?
Do you want to move on to the next public hearing after the room clears?
9 Acton.
Oh, we have 66 Yeah.
Is Roost-
I don't want people going there at all.
They don't want these people. They've
I don't want the public there at all. Signs up there that says private property.
No, but it's heading in that direction. If this development goes in, they got...
What's it used for? Can't do that.
It was given to them as in site.
No, I would.
Yes, you did a great job. I'm glad I know you. Thank you.
I just didn't know. I keep hearing that. It's just being new.
Yeah, everybody,
Right, now, if you got rid of
their concern is people can use them.
No, I would too.
park in the snow, I know they
Right with the walkways.
You're right.
Right.
Ask them, Tim, should we ask them to take it out?
Hello, could you guys please take it outside so that we can finish our meeting? Thank you very much. If you're not up next, please move on.
So, I mean, what I'm saying is we need to take a look at these because they're inconsistent with each other.
Okay, next up, 6-11 Walter Street. Outdoor Pride Landscaping LLC for the property located at 6 and 11 Walter Street. Requests a special permit for outdoor contractor's yard per section 195-5 use regulations, attachment 1E-5, and any other zone relief that is deemed necessary. The site is located in IA Limited Industrial District and consists of approximately 2.1 acres as shown on the assessors map, 97-385-1 and 97-388-1. Hello.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. Douglas Deshane from Finnerow and Nicholson here this evening representing Outdoor Pride Landscaping. With me this evening, Mark Aguilino, who is the manager of Outdoor Pride Landscaping, and Katie Enright from Howard Stein Hudson, our engineer on the project. My client is under contract to purchase the property at 6 and 11 Walters Street. As you may know, it's currently owned and operated as Anthony's Loam. My client is proposing to utilize the site for his landscaping company. And so in accordance with the determination that was made by the building inspector, that despite the similarities in the current use and my client's proposed use, he did conclude that there was enough of a difference to require a special permit. As you might know, Anthony's Loam is a commercial sales yard for loam and mulch, stone dust, gravel, and in the winter months they'll provide sand and a sand salt mix and other winter mixes for road maintenance. And Anthony's Loam consists of a garage, office structure, and they store vehicles on the site, and again, they're a commercial operation. My client, on the other hand, is still proposing to utilize the site as it exists today, the same parking areas, the same structures, the same bins for the storage of the materials, and he will be storing the same materials. The only difference will be those materials will not be available for commercial sales or retail sales, so rather they'll be used exclusively by his company. So he will be operating his landscaping company out of there. So when they need a truckload of mulch or they need a truckload of stone, they get it and they take it to the job. So there won't be the commercial sales activity that was there previously. If I could, I'd like to, Mark would like to just introduce himself to the board and say a few words. So
Yes, sure.
if I could, I'll have Mark say that, and then I'll come finish up real quick. Thanks, Mark.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Nice to meet you. My name is Mark Acklin. I'm the president of Outdoor Pride Landscape and Snow Management. We're a 30-year-old family-run business, second generation. We've been on the hunt for a property in Massachusetts for quite some time. We've looked at 30 properties in the past 2 years. We stumbled across this opportunity, and we feel it's not just a perfect fit for us to operate and run our business, but also a great fit for the community. Our business has really grown exponentially down in Massachusetts. We also have a facility up in New Hampshire as well. And over the past couple years, as we've grown and as we've scaled the business, we've really tried to look and find a home. We love Chelmsford because of the accessibility of the highway, and we like it because of the community. We've had several meetings with the economic development people, as well as some of the local neighbors, and we're just really excited for you guys to hear us out and to be a part of the community. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Again, as I had stated, Mark is hoping to run his landscaping company out of there. Again, operate the existing facility as it is today, not proposing any new structures or any major structural changes to the site whatsoever. We'll be storing equipment and trucks, and to give you some specifics on that, Mark is expected to having between 25 and 30 employees operating out of the site. They would propose to park 10 to 25 vehicles on the site, and I gave you a little list. They have 6 front-end loaders, 7 small-scale dump trucks, and then the rest are pickup trucks. And then, of course, what'll happen is as the employees come into work, they'll park their personal vehicle, and they'll jump into one of the pickup trucks or the other vehicles, and they will go off for the day to do their work, taking whatever materials they'll need for the job with them. So it'll be an exchange of vehicles, but there will be some permanent vehicles parked on the site. They will utilize the existing office and other structures on the site as they are today. So again, we're here this evening for a use special permit to allow for the operation of the landscape business. We're not proposing any changes to the site, and so we're here to answer any questions you have. Katie can answer any technical questions. Mark, obviously, business operation, and I'm happy to answer anything I might be able to respond to. So with that, thank you for your time.
Thank you, thank you. Bring it, you have letters, actually?
I do have
Yep.
letters.
Read those.
All right, form letters, Board of Health has no comments. Building Department has no comments. Police have no comments. Fire Prevention Office has the comments below. Fire Prevention Office has no outstanding concerns with this application. However, due to the change in ownership of the business, the applicant shall apply to the Fire Prevention Office for permits for storage of flammable and combustible materials, propane if stored, and storage of bark mulch products as required by the Massachusetts Comprehensive Fire Safety Code, 527 CMR 1.00. This list of required fire prevention permits may not be exhaustive and is dependent on fire prevention inspection of this business. If the applicant has any questions, they may contact the Fire Prevention Office at 978-251-4288. And that's all.
All right, let me just bring it around. Deidre, do you have anything?
Nothing.
Nancy?
Yeah, I do have a question. Why did the building inspector consider this to be substantially different? In what way?
He didn't claim it was substantially different. He claimed that there was enough of a difference that under our bylaw, under your bylaw, our bylaw,
Yeah.
the operation of a landscaping company requires a special permit. I don't think he necessarily viewed Anthony's Loam as operation of a landscape company because they were more or less commercial sales of landscaping materials.
Okay.
And, I did my best to argue.
I can appreciate that.
Especially in light of the fact that, Mark's like, wow, I don't have to do anything, I just move in. But
Yeah.
with all due respect to the building inspector, he suggested we file, and we did.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
All set, Mike?
It seems like a no-brainer to me. I have one question. What are the fees on this special permit?
The first special permit is $1,500.
Okay.
Are you thinking to do something of a reduction
I
for
mean,
this project?
this is essentially a routine
Seems silly.
thing. I mean, it seems like an awful lot of money to,
I actually thought it was already a
Yeah.
landscaping
Yeah.
company.
Yeah, I thought they did.
Yeah.
if somebody were to suggest a reduction in that, I wouldn't complain.
Nor would we.
I knew you would.
Well, let me bring it around, and then you
Yeah,
can
okay.
suggest it.
Well, I want to see what other people think of that.
No comments. Well, about your idea? Oh,
Yeah.
I think I'm surprised that being charged that much money.
Yeah, okay.
I have a couple comments on this piece of property. Maybe one of it might be a question for Evan more than another. Now, I know there was the UPS trailer thing, and I think this is being divided off from that. And I know that went to Board of Appeals. And what's ever happened with that?
So the Board of Appeals upheld the building commissioner's determination. So my understanding is that UPS, per the ZBA decision, was not allowed to lease space there. It was not considered.
It's still there, that's why I'm asking.
Can anyone, you're going to clarify that?
Yeah, no, it would absolutely 100% go away. Actually, Mark's
Yes,
using
I
both
was
6
getting
and
there,
11, and UPS has nothing to do with that.
Yes.
So they will go away if this deal goes through completely.
That was.
Okay, yeah, I was getting to that.
And the other one is, I hope you guys are aware that you can kayak down Walters Road when you get a heavy downpour. The flood that comes at the bottom of that street is amazing. It's worth seeing in a heavy downpour.
Yeah.
You go down that street and it's just, the manhole cover that's on the side of Walters actually lifts off the pipe. There is such a flow of water there. That's why if you look at that catch basin that's down there, Anthony's has kept it clean because every storm it fills in. Anthony's has done a great job with it. I have no problem with you guys going down there. Just be aware, I know Stormwater has looked at it and hasn't done much, but I have no problem with
what you're proposing.
So keep it clean is what you're saying.
you're gonna-
Welcome to town.
Keep it clean or fall into it.
Stormwater, but they're still gonna expect you to go out there with a shovel and clean it every time.
I don't have a, oh, Paul, sorry.
I have no problem.
Okay, I don't have a problem with it either, and do we have a motion, or?
Public hearing.
Oh, did I get it
Also
wrong?
public hearing.
It is public hearing.
Oh, it is a public hearing, sorry. Is there anyone from the public? Colleen, is there anyone from the public on
I
Zoom?
don't see anybody. Nope.
Anyone here would like to speak?
Give you a motion to close the public hearing.
No, we should do any other motions first.
I was gonna say, if there's a motion with respect to fees, you probably want to address that
Do
first.
that first. yeah.
Before we do that.
Okay.
Well, I want to get Evan's take on this, but it struck me that it might.
Why?
I appreciate you asking me. I wouldn't open this can. That's a filing fee. The applicant didn't request it. I'm not sure it's a financial hardship.
Kill him, but.
It's a
All
good
right.
gesture, but I'm not sure it's one that's necessary. Just my personal opinion.
We already
Yeah.
wasted the night here.
And, yeah, I can see what you're saying, and it's setting
Well, you can
precedent.
take the money and
So-
use it to shovel out the
So the
catch basin.
$1,500
Yeah.
covers the town's expense.
Okay.
So just because in this case,
I
one
just-
department decided to.
Well, I'm just
comment,
wondering, did we, so it went through the whole
It goes
process?
through the same exact
That's
process.
It's got all the
process.
same stuff. Okay, in that case, I will make it a simple motion to close.
The thought was there.
Thank you, we do appreciate.
Plus, you're not paying any
We're with you.
53G or anything like that.
Well, now I realize he's got to shovel that catch basin
Yeah,
out every
but he
storm.
also has a problem that we should be taking care of.
Yeah, we should look at it.
All right, for another day. So where are we then? We
Can I
can,
make a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I make a motion to approve the special permit that's needed for this project?
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? Thank you
Well,
very much.
We appreciate your time and your consideration.
Thank you. Welcome to town.
Thank you so much, appreciate it.
Okay. Next up, 133 Princeton Street. Continued public hearing.
Handing out the draft decision. This hearing is still open as a chair.
I do, I don't like the landscaping at
And
home.
Henry Mullin. I believe at the last
Princeton.
meeting, you kept it open primarily for Nan to provide comment and Henry to provide comment.
We knew you would want to.
Oh, yeah. I appreciate that.
All right, good evening, everyone. We did the full presentation again, Katie Enright with Howard Stein Hudson. We did the full presentation at the last meeting for the new liquor store at 133 Princeton Street. Since then, the board had requested we continue to get any additional comments that Nan and Henry might have related to lighting and landscaping, and make sure that we included any conditions or recommendations on those plans into a decision. We do still have, as the engineering letter states, working with Christina to get everything essentially up to date on the plans before we come back before you with plans to sign and endorse. So anything that's discussed tonight related to the decision or conditions of approval can be incorporated into that plan set. And with that, I'd be happy to
Okay.
answer any additional questions.
Nance?
Issues with the landscaping plan. Specifically, your eastern red cedar. Doesn't belong where you have it. Also, a number of those arborvitaes along the right-hand side periphery are going to grow big enough that they grow into the neighbor's property and they overgrow your sidewalk. So those aren't appropriate plants for that location. The grow low sumac that's in the back tends to be really weedy and invasive, and you really shouldn't use that there either. We nixed that one on the UPS site as well. And I have concerns about the sidewalk that runs around the building as opposed to having a back entrance to the building. I can tell you that I certainly wouldn't want to walk around that sidewalk at night. I can't imagine that your customers are going to want to. It doesn't strike me as an appropriate design. And certainly not with the plants that you have there that are prone to get big enough to invade the sidewalk. So that's my comments. I do have a question for Christine. Is she still on?
Yes, she is.
Thank you, Christine. The section in the back for water retention, is that big enough to do any good? I mean, is it really going to catch the runoff to keep it off of the adjacent property? Have you looked at that and looked at the capacity?
Yes, she has provided the stormwater calculations for that, and that's still something we're working on tweaking exactly. But when it's done, it should be able to accommodate the water.
So you're not good with it yet, but it's still under negotiation?
We're working on it.
Okay. So that, those details could change?
Oh, it's possible.
Okay, thank you.
Just for the record, to both Henry and Nan,
Yes, we are.
So if I may, just regarding the landscaping, again, if you could give me a list of comments, I'd
Yeah.
be happy to pass those on to James Emanuel, our registered landscape architect, to update them for the final Mylars.
Okay.
The stormwater meets the requirements, and we're working with Christina on the details. The site is significantly impervious to begin with. We are increasing the impervious, but that means we're allowed to use our pre-development flows from the existing impervious surfaces that leave the site and compare that to our post-development. So that's why the drainage might not seem as robust as a brand-new native or existing site without any impervious surface on it.
So do you currently have runoff of your water onto the adjacent sites?
That's correct.
And the expectation is that you will still have it, but not as much?
That's correct.
All right.
all right,
Thank you.
thank you. Henry?
That swale, was going to be capturing the water, is there a maintenance plan for this at all?
There's an entire O&M plan within the drainage calculations for each best management practice.
And I am probably going to suggest that something for us to bring up is we're going to start looking at all these projects in May to make sure the landscaping has been kept up. And maybe we should look at maintenance on them. We should probably talk to
Same time,
Conservation Commission about something about that, because it doesn't seem to happen.
Those have to be issued to both the Stormwater Division, I believe now, Christina, correct me if I'm wrong, the maintenance yearly, and also projects that belong to or are within jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission, we also submit the O&Ms there, or they're required to be.
Well, I mean,
We
I
need
just
to
did the
check
last 2 years up on Drum Hill. I'm the only one that complained. Apparently, you didn't go there.
It's just
you know,
not my
we-
job to maintain them.
I know, but it was, you know, when I first started in this years ago, I remember talking to Evan, I says, what happens if they don't do this? If they don't do what they told us? And Evan says they lose their credibility with the board. And the project up in Drum Hill was a very disappointment to me. You were lucky I wasn't here.
I'm not the one constructing the project.
No,
I
but
am
you're
not
the one,
even- I'm not even
you're the one
paying
making
for
the
it.
pitch to us.
On behalf of the
You,
engineer.
yes, you're making the
Not doing
pitch.
any of the work.
Yes, you stomped your feet up and down, you said how you wanted the green space, that we were creating green space. I understand. I'm not going far with this, but I am saying we're disappointed in it. We're trying, and we don't want to be disappointed again. That's my only comment.
Okay. I'm paid hourly as a civil engineer.
We're not.
I understand that.
We're not.
That's
I
my
spent-
job. That's my job.
I know. We're not. I went up there, I did the inspections. I'm the one that took and got you to go back up there midstream because water was going down the street. If you want to continue this more, I'll go out, we can do it
No,
outside.
I'd be happy to talk to you offline. I absolutely would.
All right.
That's fine.
Okay. I mean, you have very valid points. There was,
I
Many issues.
don't want
Right.
issues with the next project.
no, and I can see it. I think.
This is a one tenant
Constructive
thing, so
criticism and,
hopefully,
yes. Okay, anybody else have anything?
So I spoke with the representative of the Vinyl Square Committee.
Yes.
And regarding the sidewalk, I think there was a question that they would like the sidewalk along Princeton Street, which is in the decision. So that was a question, were you going to do that or not?
I believe MassDOT's going to require us
They're
to
gonna
do
require
it.
it.
The-
And is that a
the-
bituminous sidewalk, or is that
It is.
concrete?
The DPW asked us not to do it and
Right.
spend the money elsewhere, but MassDOT is most likely, I'm 99% sure they're going to require a sidewalk.
Granite curbing, right
Granite
along?
curbing.
Yeah.
Did DPW state why? I'm just
They
curious.
thought the money would be better served going into Vinyl Square because there isn't a lot of sidewalks right there on Princeton.
Because
But when you
there's
look
a
at-
sidewalk on the
I
other
went up-
side.
There is a sidewalk across the street, there is one in front of Princeton Station, there is, right, the restaurant.
Yes,
And there-
you
there is
got
a
it.
few that are bounced
Christina's
up
on the
and down.
call, yeah.
No, I know, agree.
Yeah.
The committee, I was just gonna say that the committee,
committee wants
they
it.
would like the sidewalk.
Okay,
And they
it's
were
still
very,
in the plan.
they were very happy with the project going in here. And just one concern that came up, it was really still my concern from the last meeting, was how secluded that back area is.
And we will adjust the
And
lighting on the
adjust the
final,
lighting,
we
so-
will adjust the lighting on the final plan. We haven't done that yet.
Fantastic. Because there's just no, it's very, it's gonna be
It's
dark
dark in
back
that
there.
corner, yep.
Yep.
Understood.
Where the majority of the parking
Otherwise,
is.
the project looks great. I mean, it's going to make such a difference to that area, I mean, for so long.
So they were very
so-
happy, the committee was
Yeah.
very happy with the building.
It's a great spot to have development, really
Yep,
is.
okay.
Can
so-
you add an access door on the back of this building so people don't have to walk around it?
So the problem is that it's significantly lower in elevation on the back of the building, and it goes into the warehouse rather than the retail floor because of the floodplain. So the idea for the back parking is for employees and then overflow at major holidays when the front spaces are overflow. The front spaces will take care of the day-to-day operations of the retail business, and then if there's an overflow, they would go to the back and would provide a lighted walk along the side of the building to get them to that front door.
Anything else?
No, I'm just thinking that with the seclusion issues of that back lot, I would rather see this as a long, deep, a narrower, deeper building with parking along the side instead of what it is. But it is what it is what you've applied
Because
for.
of the zone line. The
Yeah.
zone line
Yeah.
requires us not go any further back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
All right, and I think too,
Got it.
how you explained it, for the day-to-day, we'll be using the front parking. I mean, if you are filling that parking lot up all the time, we have an issue in town.
We do have an issue with that.
Yeah, several issues. But,
All right.
Yeah.
all right. Okay. Close the public hearing.
Yeah, I would certainly,
Yeah.
well, are we expecting any continuance beyond this, or are we going to go to vote?
We got a draft decision in front of
Yeah, I
you.
think
The
we're
only,
all
the
set.
only
I mean, we
special,
waited for the comments.
the only new special condition, which would be number 6, would be itemized landscaping list per Nanaway to be revised as part of final plans.
In that case, I move to close the public hearing.
Second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now, just a motion,
Unanimous?
a motion on the project itself.
Yep.
Yep.
I will move that we do whatever it is we're supposed to do under this article. We approve the special permits and, can we do the site plan and special
It's a
permits in
COA,
one
it's a
shot?
COA project.
So
Yeah,
it's
it's
all
a COA
together.
project.
33 Princeton Street, special permit.
All right, so the special permit is all we need. So I
Okay.
move that we grant that, subject to the changes that have been noted.
Number 6, and landscape. Second by Mike?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous?
How does it work that the landscaping plan gets integrated and approved appropriately?
When you endorse Mylars,
Yeah, we're not
Okay.
going to sign it
that's
until...
when you'll
Yeah.
You'll see it.
You'll see it,
Yeah.
see those revisions.
Thank you.
Good, okay. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you
luck
very
with the
much.
building.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Congrats.
Got this one.
That is going to be so much better up there.
Oh, boy, that building's
well.
been an eyesore forever.
As long as, almost as long as.
Thank you very much, guys. I know I.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your support.
Yeah, good luck. We have to go back now to...
To Wisteria Lane, we deferred.
In Riverneck.
Because we didn't have one to wait. The backside didn't have a plan.
Thanks.
Wisteria Lane, we decided to hold for next meeting.
Yes.
Oh, okay, we're holding
Yes.
that for next meeting?
48 hours.
That's right. But
Most-
Pile
most-
Drive, we needed.
Most likely that kills the hot
We
top
need it.
project until next spring. But it is what it is.
It should have happened earlier then, really. We can't
Should
think
have
like
been.
that.
I understand.
The 10-year-old
I mean, the
issue.
meeting,
I'm glad,
the
I mean,
letter
at
in
least,
there was
you know,
from
now
the
we know, and, all right, so,
All right.
where are we here?
Okay, so this is a continued administrative agenda item. You asked at the last meeting you had a presentation by the proponent
Yeah.
for COD applicability, BAOD applicability. You asked staff to draft a decision, which is, that's in front of you. It's also emailed out. Pretty straightforward. We had talked about earlier in tonight's meeting, finding number 8. Deidre brought up some clarifying comments. So the marked up version would read, "The board members express concerns related to the potential for 24-hour trucking operations and associated impacts."
All right. Anybody else have anything on that? Deidre?
No, I'm
That-
okay with that.
Take a motion?
Yes.
I would move that we endorse this decision on the CEIOD applicability.
Second,
Second.
by Henry, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous?
Abstain.
Abstain.
Okay.
6 and 1, yeah. 6,
01.
okay, next up.
Last item is the Christina's letter to recommend endorsement for 56 Pile Drive Mylars.
I'm the one to trust her on this one.
All right. So what's,
What do we have to pile here? We go.
Well, I just need to get it in the file.
yeah, this is just a letter.
Here's the amendment. Okay.
There you go, Deidre, sorry.
Thank you.
I would,
Yeah, we probably only needed one copy, but that's okay.
Yeah.
well, what the heck?
We just needed to
We
read
have
it.
like 11 now.
If you don't want to read it out loud, that's fine, you just need a motion.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's important in the motion.
Yeah. All right, so this is a letter from the Department of Public Works regarding 56 Pile Drive, 10,000 square foot building addition. Dear members, this office has reviewed the site plans by Land Tech consisting of 8 sheets dated March 30th, 2021, revised through September 29th, 2021, and a stormwater management report dated August 2nd, 2019, revised through August 30th, 2021. This office's concerns have been met sufficiently, and the plans have been revised accordingly. We recommend endorsement of the Mylars. If you have any questions, please contact this office at 978-250-5228. Sincerely, Christina Papadopoulos.
Great. All right, thank you, Nancy. We get a motion?
I would move that we direct our chairman to endorse the final plans.
Second.
Second by Henry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So
And
we don't have on the agenda anymore, but I would like to request that we put it back on the agenda, new business, old business,
Yeah, we-
liaison reports.
We're supposed to do
we,
that.
yeah, we discussed it already, Evan and I, after talking with you, and it's gonna
Yeah.
happen.
And I personally would like to have a time in the schedule, either at the beginning or the end, for some designated amount of time for public input, like,
That was mentioned also, thanks to you, and we talked about that, and just to be clear, so like Evan was explaining to me, someone could come in and talk, but we wouldn't necessarily be able to respond back to them.
right, that's fine.
Get them out, right?
I actually have a concern about that, which is the nature of the business that we do is specific project-oriented, generally, not always. I mean, some of the things we do are general, and some of our discussions are general. But I think what that's going to turn into is people coming in to complain about projects or to comment on projects when it's not within the regular public hearing
So we
portion
have to
for
stop.
that project.
Yeah,
We
yeah, yeah.
have
So maybe if we
specific
made the commentary
accommodations
be
for different
general.
kinds.
Like if
For
someone
general
had an-
commentary, yeah. My
how do you-
caution would be,
Right, how do you?
how do you
It
stop
always
it?
turns
Right.
into.
It always,
It always
If
turns
it's,
into
if
a
it's general
whining session.
commentary, then what would be an
Right, I was gonna
example
say,
of
what
general
would be an example?
That's the
commentary?
point.
I don't know,
Oh,
we could try it and see.
yeah, that's,
Then why not just hold listening sessions?
yeah. That
Once a
might
year,
be, that
or
might
twice
be
a
more
year.
appropriate.
Yeah,
but
it's once a quarter.
I would,
do a
I would,
listening session.
I would be concerned that would turn into stuff
I think-
directed at particular
I
projects.
mean, I mentioned to Tim, public input's fine. I mean, other elected boards in town do it. But they manage it. It's severely managed.
Right, I would think we would have to manage it.
And as
But I think
as
to
Mike
have
said, it
an
would even need to be
opportunity-
more managed than what the select board does. If
Yeah.
you're having a regulatory item that's on, let's say, tonight's agenda, but was continued for 30 days, and at the next meeting, someone wants to show up and talk about a regulatory,
that's a
you're
problem.
not allowed to do that.
Can't do it.
Right. No, I mean,
So-
it would have to be within the legal scope, clearly.
Yeah, I understand, but, so the agenda can try to say that, but you may have people show up and then they're
You're
shut
gonna have
down.
a really hard time.
So I'm just saying, there's gonna
managing
be a learning curve for the public to understand what they can talk about, what they can't talk about.
Is there a way to put some sort of a definition together of what, like, they're allowed to speak
I mean, we'd have
about?
to put a
mean,
disclaimer in there that if it's a regulatory item and if it's an active regulatory item on a previous agenda or a future agenda,
Yeah.
I think it's worth doing that because they may feel like they can speak. It's public input and they're
right, so
gonna
in
wanna.
what my concern would be, that would lead to frustration.
Yeah.
The whole point of public input is to alleviate
Right.
frustration.
And it also could
exchange.
lead to a situation in which some of our decisions
So I
could be
think-
questioned.
I think it's, as long as everyone understands, the board and the public, what's appropriate to be talked about, I think it's
Could you
it's
give
a
me an
great- of
example?
great
of, like-
value.
Like, what would we be looking for the public, like, to come in and speak about? If it's not a specific project meeting,
Right.
like.
I mean, I guess I can't think of one off the top of my head.
You know, and I'm not trying to put you on the
No, no,
spot.
no, I
I'm
know.
trying to, in my head, to think about it, like.
Yeah, we are one of the, like, main boards in town that don't have any kind of, the only interaction we have is very prescribed. And it doesn't give people who are having a thought that they want to bring to the board as a general, you know,
Yeah.
non-related to a project, there's no place for them to do that. And I think that's. I
It
think
can
that
be, that's what I'm
causes
saying. I mean, there's
frustration.
nothing preventing the board from doing a work session that's open to the public, or a listening session
Yeah,
like the
or
select board is
listening
doing.
session.
But how do you, I mean, do you do that monthly, what, every?
Maybe
Maybe-
quarterly.
Quarterly?
Yeah,
I mean-
no more than quarterly.
I wouldn't do it more
Do
than
you,
quarterly.
do you want to amend it, or would you like to still try to do it the public
No,
input and see
I
how
mean,
it works?
If you think that it would be reasonable to do it quarterly, and, I mean, there would have to be kind of rules of engagement.
Yeah, but it could be part of your regular meeting instead of.
then
We
yeah.
could
of a
try
work
it and see
session.
what happens.
Yeah.
I mean-
Do
You know?
Would you be, that fine with you guys, doing it quarterly even to start?
Yeah.
Well, let's try one in the upcoming weeks.
All right, that works.
So we'll try to fit that in, a listening session as part of a regular meeting?
Yes, try to fit it in like before a regular meeting and.
Yeah.
I think that makes some
But I
sense.
mean, you have to state the rules, and the rules are, it can't
Oh, you gotta
be
figure out.
about an
Any
application.
open issue.
Cannot be
Can
about
we write
any
that in
We'll
there?
have to work on that, yeah, I
Okay.
can present a draft for board consideration.
Deidre, since you brought it up, is that,
I think that sounds great.
okay. All right.
Very good.
What else?
We'll add, I know we can add liaison reports, new business and old business, the town clerk, due to agenda, open meeting law, they want it to be itemized. So just listing new business, old business is not going to be sufficient.
Okay.
So we need to think about, what some of those typical new business, old business may be. If we're able to itemize them tonight, then I can certainly put them on the next agenda. If it's in between meetings, and just, email them to Tim, and Tim can email them to me, and.
I think the liaison reports too
Oh,
is
yeah, that's,
important.
yep, that's straightforward.
And, okay.
You could simply say non-regulatory matters.
Yep.
That would do it.
I do have one question for
Yes, please.
I'm not sure the
Evan.
public understands that term.
Yeah.
Is when, Evan, I think you mentioned, when do you go look at projects that we've completed, that we've passed, approved, and that are under construction to verify if they're being built per what we approved? Do you do that at the end of the job, or do you do it
Yeah, so-
periodically during the construction?
So if it's a phased occupancy, I will go out there to make sure that the phasing is safe.
Okay.
However, I don't do my final inspection per the planning board approved plans until final occupancy on a phased occupancy is requested.
Okay.
So that's why you've heard Christina talk about interim as-bills. She requests them, even though the board doesn't have anything in their decision that requires them. Henry's talked about codifying that in your decisions. And Henry and the board's talked about beefing up
Yes, I do.
interim or phased occupancy.
Yeah, okay.
That's a work in progress. But as I said, during phased occupancy, we ensure that it's safe for the public to be introduced to that site, whether it's residential or commercial. They have to prove to us that it has, safe paving, markings, signage, lighting, things of that nature.
Do I have your copies?
So along those lines, but being more specific, and again, I don't know if this is the right time to bring this up. Went back and was looking at the place, actually made a wrong turn, trying to go to the West Campus site, neighboring streets, and I ended up over by the Glenview, and I was very surprised at how tall those units were. I mean, I wasn't on the board when those units were approved, but there's a wall, so I went back and I looked at the plans, and on the plans, the renditions that Melissa showed right the week before the election, which she was anxious to button up before the election, there was a retaining wall that I didn't see on the drawings that lifts the project off the street, I don't know, maybe 3 feet, I didn't have a yardstick, but also there's the basement level. It shows some small shrubs at the ground level, but in the actual structure, there's another 3 or 4 feet of foundation that's exposed on the front. So I mean, I don't know if it's 45 feet tall, that was what it was designed to be, which seems also high, but it's just kind of towering. And it seems to me like it was supposed to go down a whole level from the front of the structure to the back where the underground garage was, and it looks like half of that garage is exposed on the front. I don't know, but, I mean, has anyone else looked at that? And
Yeah, I've seen it. There was a retaining wall on Princeton Street that was approved. The retaining wall on the side street was not approved, and it was supposed to be just like 3 steps up, and the whole basement is at ground level. So it's all at grade. And then the first floor is higher. So the whole structures just seem very, very big for that area. I think it was a lot bigger than we anticipated.
It didn't look like the pictures to me.
No.
Well, that's a great point. So when does somebody inspect that to make sure, like,
Well,
they are doing the right thing?
I'm assuming that the building permit that was applied for and issued is part of the planning board approval. It may or may not be. Under any scenario, if someone's going to modify it, it's incumbent upon the developer to notify someone that they're modifying a planning board application. Now, I do recall there was conversation with the fire prevention office related to Walter Weed side. So making some modifications. I think at one time, there was contemplation of putting the fire turnaround up on that side. And then it was removed, and then they wanted to add the wall for aesthetic purposes. But the rear walkout that you're describing, that's news to me. I'm not aware of anything
Could we
related to
look at that and have?
Yeah, I mean,
someone
I'll
look at
circle
it
with,
and check that?
with the building commissioner.
Just take a ride by and see if it's per the plan.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
It could be certainly per the final plan.
Yeah, that's what we'll do.
That's
what
it.
we'll do. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Just didn't want to, I mean, you're going to get so down the road, and if there's something, that's the question is, what do you do at the point where it's built and it doesn't comply?
Agreed.
Then
Agreed, that's what I'm
we
saying, I
all
mean,
have an
it's,
issue.
you know, it's,
That's a great point, and why Henry was frustrated too with some of these projects not getting completed correctly. We just had the guy in front of us
it's
last
not,
meeting.
it's not the engineer who appears before you, unless
No,
that.
we understand
I'm just
that.
saying- Just to clarify, unless the engineer that appears before you was also hired by the developer
Yep.
to be on site, to verify, to show the, you know, to show the diggers and the foundation people, this is where I surveyed and pinned, and this is where you work. Katie's not providing that service for most.
Again, she may not be, but when she comes here and represents the project as, you know, we're
Yeah.
gonna, she's the one we're looking at, one we're
And
talking.
I'm just trying to,
so
I'm just trying to.
I can
I'm just-
see why
I'm just
we're
trying
gonna
to tell
direct
you
it at
that
her.
she's not on the site.
Yeah, we get that.
She's
We
not
get
the
that.
clerk.
Yep.
Yeah. It's still
Evan,
been- it's
can
still
you
been on
back?
for 2 years, but I gotta get out of here. I got
Yeah.
father to put to bed.
Let's
We'll see you,
make
Henry.
a motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.